Hello, this video goes through the process of setting up an account for students and teachers in high school in the zFairs platform. So this slideshow is going to go over really briefly the pathway to participation, but you should check out the website zFair.com for more information, the paperwork overview of what those forms are going to look like and what you need to do. Then we'll go through the teacher instructions, both how to create an account as a teacher and then viewing paperwork and requesting review. And then the student instructions, both in terms of creating an account and uploading paperwork. You can jump around as you need to. There should be time codes in the description for this video, as well as access to these slides. So to start out the pathway to participation, schools and districts sometimes have a local fair or school fair, district fair in order to identify students that proceed to regional and/or state events. However, schools without a fair can still participate, but you do want to coordinate with your school to do that. Homeschool students can participate as homeschool students based on their town. Students who do not have support of their schools also do have a path to participation, but please contact us at info@zfair.com for details on how that'll work. Students should participate in a regional fair, and they're eligible for promotion to the state fair based on their placement at the regional fair. I'll show you where to find the information for your regional fair in a second. Schools also do have the option of a direct entry. This is an opportunity to send 2 projects to the state fair who didn't advance from the regional fair. You can see the manual for more information or contact us. And then the top projects at the regional fair, as well as top projects at the state fair, are eligible for the International Science Engineering Fair, or ISEF. Please, again, see the manual for more details. It is expected in participating in science fair that you are following the rules and expectations. In order to participate at either the regional or the state level, you do need to fill out the paperwork and go through statewide scientific review at mahs.zfairs.com. This is your paperwork portal. It's MA for Massachusetts, HS for high school. I'm going to talk more about how to use the deadlines, but the final deadline for projects that are restricted area projects and require advanced paperwork is December 15th, but you should submit before you start experimentation and give yourself time for that review process. January 15th is the final deadline if your project does not require SRC pre-approval, but you should submit as soon as it's completed. Projects must comply with the rules and research and safety regulations, so please do look at the high school manual. Projects also need an adult sponsor and/or teacher if they're the same person or not the same person, and parent or guardian approval before experimentation starts. Projects in restricted areas need approval from the Scientific Review Committee by submitting to MAHS before experimentation, but all students need approval before presenting at the fair. Projects also need to be the student's own project design and work. This should not be a project that was given to you or an idea that was given to you in a program. Consult the MSF ethics statement, which is on the website and also on mahs.zfairs.com for more information about that. If you are part of a program, a school program that is more than 20 or so projects, contact us. We will help figure out how best to streamline this process and review deadlines that work for you. This is the map of the regional footprint across the state. You can go to zfair.com/fairs and zoom in on this map. There's the links to the regional event pages. Again, the convention is MA for Massachusetts, reg for region, and then the number of the region. Before you get started in zFairs, we want to make sure that you're ready to set up an account. So take a look at the high school science fair ready checklist. You want to select a topic and category for your project. On the Science Fair Ready page on the website, you can find some tips for ways to do this. Review the high school manual. It's very long. I think it's more than 50 pages. You can use the table of contents to navigate that. You can also use the Control F or the different search functions to find topics or keywords that apply to you. Come up with your project approach, your research plan, how you're going to do what you want to do. Coordinate with your teacher and or adult sponsor for your project. Review the roles of adults in the manual if you're working with several different adults. Make sure your teacher sets up their account in zFairs first. So this is the overview of what the high school paperwork looks like. We did make some changes to how this is organized for this year. So we ask that you complete your paperwork before you create an account, so you know what the information is that you of what you're doing before you set this up. All projects require the same basic forms. And so what we've done this year is we've put those into a paperwork package, and you can download that at mahs.zfairs.com at any time. It's accessible now. That packet includes the checklist for the adult sponsor, the student checklist, the cover sheet of what you need in your research plan or project summary, your approval form, which is combined with MSEF, permissions, and then your risk assessment. Risk assessment is recommended for all projects. It might be completely inapplicable for you, but we'll go through what that looks like in a second. If your project requires advanced paperwork because it's in restricted areas, your account will also be populated with one or more of these forms. They are not required for every project, so they're not in the packet and will need to be uploaded separately. And then the two forms at the bottom, if you're working in an outside institution or if your project builds on earlier projects, those forms are needed at the conclusion of the project. One note with the risk assessment: for some projects, the risk assessment is required as opposed to just recommended, in which case usually the Form 2 also applies. But take a look at the rules to identify whether or not your project is a pre-approval required approval project, or if it can wait. So this is a snapshot of what the paperwork package cover sheet looks like. It'll go through the different steps for participation, reminders of some of the information you need. So these are all bundled together. It includes forms for up to 3 team members if you need that. If you're an individual student, just leave any of those blank. You can download this and fill it out electronically. You can print it and fill it out by hand. You scan it to upload. Just don't open it as a Google Doc. In terms of deadlines, I mentioned thinking of the deadlines as a no later than system. So you really want to come up with a deadline that works best for your project, and you also want to avoid disqualification. So we suggest that you meet with your teacher and come up with a deadline that works for you. If you require Form 3, Form 4, Form 5, Form 6, in other words, if your project is in any of the restricted areas and not exempt from pre-approval, you need to submit your paperwork before you begin, and you should allow for at least 10 days for approval. The more complete your project is, the quicker this process will also go, and it won't extend beyond that 10 days. You should upload that when you're ready, but it can be no later than December 15th. If you don't require any of those additional forms, again, submit your paperwork when you're ready. It helps to avoid any sort of disqualification or questions, but it can be no later than January 15th. It is also very important that once your paperwork is ready, that your teacher go into their dashboard, and we'll show how this works at the end, and mark that ready. We cannot review projects unless that box is checked, and incomplete projects will not be reviewed. On the permissions page this year, the top part of this page is the ISEF Form 1B, and that's where the student and the parent sign off. The bottom of this page is a modified form that includes signatures and checks for students, parents, adult sponsors, and or teachers if those are different people. But all of those things need to be checked and signed. Everyone should take a look at the ethics statement, which is linked here in a few different locations, as well as parents and guardians need to review the required releases. There's one form for each student that is participating in the packet. The policies that I mentioned can also be found on the website. You would find these at the FAIRS page, and you can find them if you scroll down to the FAIR Policies section, but they are also on mahs.zfairs.com. For the research plan, the packet again will include this cover sheet on suggestions of what should be in your research plan, but we do also have templates that folks have found really helpful They can be found on the resources page of the website. And there are different types of templates depending on what type of project you are doing. Finally, the last page of the packet is the risk assessment form. This, as I said, this is recommended for all projects. If it's required, according to the rules, then you do need that before experimentation. Otherwise, just think through, are there any safety risks to people, to animals, to community, to materials, either physical or psychological? Think through how you're storing materials, think through how you're disposing of materials, think of the types of questions you're asking people. By filling this form out, it really helps reviewers know that you've thought through your project carefully, and it helps you think through your project carefully as well. So it really benefits you to go through the process of filling this out. As I said, if there's projects that are in restricted areas, there may be additional forms as required. This decision grid is in a few different places, including the last page of the manual, so you can get a sense of what are the forms that you need. Okay, in this section, I'm going to give teachers information on how to set up their account. What they can set up an account at any time, but it does need to be before students create accounts. So if teachers have an account from 2023-24, they can use that login. And if you need help with access, let us know. Student accounts do need to start over this year if they're returning students, but teachers still have an account. Once you create an account, you will be added to mailing lists for announcements and resources. We try to only send out helpful things or information that you need. Review the Science Fair Ready checklist, review it with your students. You can find that in a few locations as well. Again, if you have a large school program, 20 or more projects, whatever that threshold is for you, if you want to help coordinate different options to streamline the process, avoid disqualification, work within the sort of deadlines that you have for your school fair, let us know. If you have questions at any time, please reach out to us, to your regional chair, and we are more than happy to assist. Also, please note that Chrome is the most reliable browser to use. There are some issues that can come up with other browsers, so it's definitely the recommended choice. One note on the role of teachers. Communication through zFairs and from the SRC goes to the teacher, usually in addition to students. In most cases, the teacher is also the adult sponsor, which is the language that's used on the project forms. As an adult sponsor, you would have certain responsibilities, but I'm just going to highlight what you need to do as a teacher, which is to review MSEF and school ethics statements with the students, reviewing any other applicable rules. You need to provide signed permission on the paperwork packet as the teacher. You'll need to create that account in zFairs before the student, which is what we're doing now, and then mark that completed paperwork ready for review once it's good to go. You'll need to monitor communication from the SRC for project approval and follow up as needed. Usually the students receive it directly as well, but just to make sure they're getting those messages. Communicate with MSEF and the regional fairs about that student or group of students' participation in the fair, fill out registration, pass on required communication to the student and the sponsor, etc. There is a link here. You can also find on our policies page that eligibility for science fair is based on school affiliation. So if you need information about what that means and why, you can go to that document. So in order to create an account, there's two different places you can do that on the website. This is mahs.zfairs.com. You want to make sure you use an email address you check regularly and make sure there's no school firewalls. We ask that if your school does have firewalls, that you contact the school and request that they whitelist emails from zfairs.com and scifair.com, as it will make the process easier for both you and your students. I'm going to show you the process if you go to the sign up now box, but you can choose either option to create an account. So you will put a username, your name, your email address, and then you want to register as a teacher. And then it comes back to the same page for everyone where you're going to verify your email address. So you will get an email address. If that address does not come through, let us know and we can help you correct that if it's not appearing in any of your spam folders. So you will be asked to confirm your email address. You want to click that link. It'll open up a new window and then you can keep going. You can change your assigned username at this point if you want to. You'll be we're asked that you put a phone number in just in case we have problems reaching you by email. and then you will choose a password to log in again. You will select your school from this drop-down menu. If your school is not listed, you can use this button or contact info@zfair.com and we will help you out. And then there's just some agreements we want you to review in terms of your responsibility as the teacher, and you will save and continue. Then your account is complete. Make note of your username and the email that you used, but students are now able to create accounts. At the end of this slideshow, I'm going to go back to once the students have populated their accounts, how you navigate your dashboard. So for students, before you set up an account in zFairs, there's some information you should have ready. First off, review the ethics statement and rules for your project in the high school manual. Make sure your completed research plan and other paperwork in coordination with your teacher is all signed, or at least your project is approved, and then you can upload the paperwork later. Make sure your teacher sets up their account in zFairs first. You will want to know what your project category, your draft title, and your short project description are, because you'll need to use those to set up your account. And you will also need your address, your parent email, and your phone numbers ready to enter. For team projects, you will want to choose a team lead who is responsible for making sure things get done on the project, although you're all working collaboratively, but the team lead is the person who will create the account first. Please note that Chrome is the most reliable browser to use, especially when it comes time to upload paperwork. So for students, I'm going to suggest that you go to this top button that says Create Account. You will have the option to choose Student from the drop-down menu, and you will put some information in here. So you want a username that you'll remember. It can just be first and last name. And then enter your name. If when you're entering your name, if there's two first names you regularly use, you can certainly include both. Make sure you're using an email address you check regularly. Make sure it's not blocked by firewalls at your school. You can always use a parent or teacher email if needed. But you will need to confirm your account through the process before you can go past this page. So make sure you have access to it to approve. So again, you'll verify your email. If this doesn't work, let us know and we can help correct it. You will confirm that address, and then you can keep going with your personal information. So what you're doing now with the next few fields is you're starting to populate your dashboard in the account. So you will need to fill in your information. You do not need to put your demographic information if you're not comfortable. You can select prefer not to answer. The information is helpful for us for our record keeping, but is not required. Then you will pick a password that you will remember. The bottom of this page is your parent, first name, last name, email, phone. Again, make sure you have those handy so that they're correct. And then your address and your zip code and your state. So again, have those handy so that we know so that they're correct. You want to then hit save and continue. Next page is the school info. This is where you're going to put if it's public, private, charter, or magnet, or a district approved homeschool. Students who are registered as state approved or district approved homeschools can participate, and that's based on the town where they live. Virtual schools that are through the state are also based on the town where you live. Students who attend virtual schools, so it'll be listed as name of school and hometown. Your participation is through your school, even if you're working with a program outside of school, but let us know if you need help navigating those guidelines and the rules of adults. So for most students at this point, you will choose start a new entry. However, if you have a team member who already created an account, then you're going to need a key code from them to put into the link to existing entry box. If you accidentally created multiple accounts, let us know and we can correct that. You'll put your school, your teacher, and your grade. If your teacher or school is not listed, contact them to make sure that they have signed up first. For your entry information, you will put your project title, can be adjusted later. Your category, you want to choose the most appropriate category. If you're not sure, think about what type of scientist or engineer would be the best suited to review your project. Once you hit a category into this drop-down menu, it will show you the description of what that category means. This can also be found in the manual. And then the second part of that, again, if you are creating a new entry, you are going to be a team project and you are the team lead, you will check that team project box, and then that will let you know, that'll let the system know that you need a project key for your team members. In terms of electrical outlets, they might be needed at the fair. If you make it to the fair, you can just think ahead now whether or not you need that. It's not intended for charging your phone. It's more if you have a project component that you're expecting to have at the fair that requires electricity. For your project abstract, you will want to finalize this at some point if you compete in the fair. But for right now, think about what is that short summary of your project work, the what, the why, the how you're doing this work. And keywords are always helpful. This will be found later in the profile tab, and I'll show you where that is so you can edit it later. The next tab is the zFairs questionnaire. This is where you're going to indicate if there's anything additional that's part of your project that pushes it into the restricted areas. There are different ways that you can figure this out. If you need help, we can help you with this, but go to the high school manual. You can also Google ISEF form wizard, and it will give you some information to help you figure out what you need to put. Also, make sure you can't get past this page unless you hit the save and continue at the bottom. You might have no checks in this area, and that's totally fine as well. So then it'll bring you to the paperwork tab. This is where the required paperwork is listed, as well as all the other potential forms. At this point, you do not need to upload anything to this field. You can go past this and then come back to it later. So you're going to want to scroll to the bottom and do save and continue. You're then going to agree of these things. Please read this, actually read this. Ask questions if you're not sure what it's saying, and then click that check mark and hit save and continue, and that finishes your account setup. This gives you your account confirmation, and this will also come over email. Save that email, there's important information in it. And then this number right at the bottom is your account. Your project ID number is there. If you were a team project, again, if you hit that team piece, then you will also get this information. This is your project key, as well as a website or a link that can be used directly for your team members. If team members started individual accounts, just let us know and we can help fix that. Once your account is created, now what you've done, you're going to be able to see the next time you log on, you're going to have a few options at the top where you see test in the upper right here. That's my name is test in this case. But if you click on that little triangle, you'll get this menu for my profile. My profile is going to give you these tabs you just populated in the box down below, long box down below. There's the profile, the additional questions, school, entry, which is where you would put your abstract or correct your title later, the zFairs questionnaire, and then the paperwork. Okay, so paperwork uploader. So once your account's set up, you can upload paperwork. We ask that you do that within 2 weeks of creating your account. So I'm going to show you how to upload documents. These forms can all be signed out with pen, scanned, uploaded. They can also be filled out and signed electronically. It's really whatever works for you and your school and your technology. If you don't have all your documents ready, again, you don't need to upload them right away, but you should upload them within 2 weeks of creating an account, because your project cannot be reviewed until the documents are uploaded and your teacher marks them ready for review. Your project must be marked ready for review before the deadlines for the regional fairs. Again, just remember that Chrome is the most reliable browser to use. This especially is true when you are uploading the paperwork. So to find the paperwork uploader, you're going to go to the paperwork tab on your portal. And it will look something like this. Read these instructions at the top. This will tell you how to find the forms and how to upload. Only fill out the files marked required in red. If you need to add additional paperwork beyond the forms that are listed here, you can use the additional paperwork tab. That's sort of a blank tab that you use if needed. So when you go through the paperwork upload, you're going to click on one of these required boxes. The blank file text, this text in blue is a link. So you can hit this and it gives you a template or a form that you can use. There's other places you might have gotten the form. You don't need it from right here, but this shows you what you need. Some of these fields and the forms are fillable. So again, these can be printed, signed, and uploaded. They can also be done digitally. So you want to select the file to upload. Once the file is selected, you want to hit upload to finish. So for most students, all students have the MAHS paperwork package. That's the bundle of package things together, and then a blank area for the research plan. There is a template, but remember I said you can find more templates on the resources page at zFair.com. All students really have to have a thorough research plan. This is the most important step, is to have that plan of what you're going to do. You can use a template from your school as long as it covers the needed elements. It must be descriptive for the SRC to review it. If you require additional paperwork based on the buttons you checked when you created your account, you might have additional requirements. So it'll say required if it's required, and then once it's done, it'll say file upload, and it will go to the bottom of the list. If your project's in restricted areas that require Form 3, the Form 3 and Form 2 box show that required tag typically. You don't need to fill out Form 3 again if you completed it in your paperwork package, but you do need to submit for pre-approval before beginning experimentation. If Form 1C and Form 7 are not needed until the end of your project, you do not need to submit these for pre-approval. In order to receive project approval, once your forms are complete, communicate with your teacher and let them know you're ready for review. Teachers will review the paperwork to confirm completion and then mark ready for review from their dashboard. This box should not be checked unless the paperwork is complete. Don't ask your teacher to review it unless you know it's complete and they're there. The SRC will review your project and reach out with questions, so do keep an eye on your emails. You can also go to the portal and it will show whether or not it's pending review or if there are comments that need to get addressed. Remember that projects with additional forms need to wait for approval before experimentation can begin. So remember that teachers are the ones that review projects and request approvals, even if your adult sponsor is a different person. If you're struggling with any parts of this, please let us know. We are happy to sit down with you, a group of students, and go through the process, but make sure you reviewed the instructions first. And as again, a reminder, complete and thorough research plans will speed up this process. Filling out paperwork is not registration for your regional fair. This is just the first part of the process to make sure your project is ready to go if you are chosen or if you decide to compete, depending on your school fair status. This is the first step to participate. Okay, so this is the last section, teacher review. So for teachers, once your students tell you their project is ready to review, you can review it in the zFairs dashboard. You can review their submission, you can make adjustments, you can control some of the information that's in there directly. You do have to check that mark ready box, and that's what signals that the SRC, the Scientific Review Committee, that it's ready to be reviewed. Department heads can contact info@zfair.com and set up account access to all the school projects. And again, Chrome is the most reliable browser to use. I personally find this the most important when I'm reviewing paperwork. So in your dashboard, your teacher dashboard, this is what it will look like. You have the My Students tab, which you don't ever have to look at, but it's your list of your students. There's also the Review tab where you can review student paperwork. And that's the one that's essential for you to use. If you have to make any changes to your own profile, you can do that through the My Profile tab. So again, this is optional for you to use and for the most part, but this is a way for you to look at what is the information students put in their account beyond their paperwork. So in order to access this, you probably will have multiple students listed. You click on that little person icon and this window will pop up. Please only click on the Edit View Participant and not the other boxes. The tab that you will want to use is the required for required use is the review tab. So this is an example of what it will look like in the review tab. You will see your student's name, their project ID, and then it will show you what paperwork they have required and what has been uploaded. There's a little key in the upper right to remind you of what those little pieces mean. If you need to make any changes to the forms, you can select that Manage tab. But again, this isn't required for you to do this. If you do click on the Manage tab, you'll have an opportunity to override, require, not require certain forms. This is not the expectation that teachers are able to do this, but you do have this ability if you know that the form is required that didn't show up. Again, this is where too, if you know that there's additional paperwork needed, they can put that in that additional paperwork tab. In order to review the paperwork, we ask if a student tells you my paperwork's ready to go, we ask you to click on all of those boxes. So once they've uploaded their paperwork, you want to check for completeness as well as legibility. It needs to be legible, not too blurry, not too small. If it's a gray arrowed box, it means they didn't upload anything in that form, but it's required. If it's a blue box, it means it has been uploaded. So you can click on that box and it opens this viewing window, which is the behind of the screen. If you're not in Chrome, this paperwork might not be viewable and you'll just see a gray box. So that you can look through this, scroll down, read all the paperwork that they've uploaded so that you can see it and know that it is ready. Once it is ready, you know it's complete, then you're going to want to check that Mark Ready button. And then keep an eye on your email and your spam folders in case there's any follow-up communication. It will either come through the zFairs portal or directly from a reviewer. So emails will be sent when projects have been approved, but you can view the status in your review tab. The Ready for Judging box will be checked for approval for approved projects, and this big bar will turn green. Not all of the little boxes of paperwork will have a green check, and that's okay. As long as that Ready for Judging check is there, it means they're ready to go. The example right below, you'll see that project is pending review. That's what the brown line means. And so it is in the hands of a reviewer right now. If there is a red exclamation mark, it means that that form needs attention. So take a look on the comments field to get more information about what that is. Again, you'll see in this example above too, this project is ready for judging, but Form 1C is missing. That's because Form 1C and Form 7 are not needed until before competition. It's a lot to go over and we are happy to help you. Most students will have the simplest form of paperwork upload, but this presentation covers everything. So please do reach out when any questions. We're happy to sit down with a group of students, a group of teachers to go over the process. We are here to help, so please do reach out. So thank you.